So how's everybody doing? Sounds like everybody's asleep.
Seems to happen every time a new person comes in the room. We all kind of like shut up.
Stop talking about them.
Really? David up there in Montreal is having some issues.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the lighting.
Looks like a flash camera keeps going off.
Probably his auto brightness.
Something like that. I think I'll turn off the video.
It's a beam me up Scotty moment.
Okay, well, it's a little bit after the top of the hour here. So today, for our guest presenter, we have Eric Tangman. Honestly, Eric, I really have nothing. Usually we tell all about everybody, but nobody sent me anything to tell me any of your accomplishments and all that stuff they normally do. So I'm going to let you do it yourself.
All right.
The topic today is going to be SQView and using SQView for better choreographic management. Take it away.
All right. As far as accomplishments go, I would say the primary one is I made it to retirement. All right. I've been calling for probably, approximately 40 years or so, but whatever. I started a while back writing. Professionally, I was I guess you'd say sort of a programmer. I was in IT, and I started a couple of months back writing some software for use on the laptop while I was calling. As many people have, or it's been discussed here many times, people take all kinds of notes that they take to their dances, whether it be a programmatic note or just like figures for singing calls or get outs or whatever, and you end up with stacks of paper all over the place. I was sort of in that same boat, and I thought that this is not the way to do it. There's got to be a better way. So I started looking to put it into SQView, since I already had that as a computer with me. And I thought there were little shortcomings in terms of how that was done. And so I started writing some stuff to make it, to do what I wanted to do. And on one of these sessions, before the session started, some while back, I showed Mel what I was doing. I didn't know if anybody else might be interested in it or not. And he said, sure, why don't you present it to people? They can always just not do it if they don't want to. So anyway, that's how we got to here. In the interim, I've added some more things to it, and I have some more things in progress, but they're not in it right now. Now, the software that I developed is basically a tool that you use outside of SQView to set up some files that SQView would be able to use. In effect, what they do is it sets up indexing files for whatever type of files that you want to use. The software that I created makes no changes to your Windows system in the sense of the registry. It's just a downloaded program, and along those lines, I would mention that I've never created any Windows-oriented software for distribution. This is the first attempt at doing something like that. And in the process of looking at how that is done, I've become well aware that there are many environments in which only certain kinds of things run. As an example, I have no access to a Mac, so I have not written the software, or have not, quote, published the software for use on a Mac. If there was somebody that thought that they might like to use it, that had a Mac, I'd be glad to work with them to try to make a distribution that would work on a Mac. Likewise, the systems that I have are Windows 10 and 64-bit. So that's the only environment that I can test in. If somebody has an older system or a 32-bit system instead of a 64, I don't know that this will work on it. I don't know that it won't. But there again, I'd be glad to try to work with you to try to make a distribution that would work on your system if what I've already done doesn't. So having said all that, let's get over here and is everybody seeing my desktop now?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I've created a second SquareView, and I have this is my desktop system, and I have a laptop, of course, that I then would take with to a dance. I do most of my development here on the desktop, and then just copy the stuff over, and you'll see some facilities that I have for doing that. But I've created a second instance of SquareView on this machine, that we can get to with SquareView 2. And here we go. You can tell by this, it's just been loaded. It's new, and we'll just leave that stuff for right now. So anyway, all right. So here's this new SquareView, all right? And you can do it with your system. It doesn't have to be a new one, but if you create a new instance of SquareView, you can feel absolutely safe that nothing is going to get disturbed on your system. What I distribute is a zip file right here, SQView SquareView utility, the zip file, and you get that and download it onto your system. I sent a copy of it to Mark. Mark, will you be able to put this someplace where people can get it?
I think so. I'm not positive. I'm not sure if my website lets me do zip files, but I will try.
Okay.
If not, I can email it to anybody that asks me for it.
Okay, likewise, I would be glad to email it to anybody. Along with this, there also is a installation guide, which is in PDF format. And, I could freely send that to everybody, and I'm sure that you can post a PDF. And so people get it from there. My email address is at the very top front of the installation guide. So if anybody wants to communicate with me. And I would mention here that if you have any problems with the software, feel free to let me know, send me an email. If you have any suggestions for enhancements or whatever, again, send me an email and I'll look to do it. All right, so anyway, here I'm going to click on the zip file, and what it's going to do is it's going to create a directory tree under the directory name My Stuff. I keep all this, anything that I modify, I keep under this directory tree. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, and the name is not in and of itself important. You can name it anything you want. So if you already have a directory in SquareView called My Stuff, you can rename this one or rename your other one. It doesn't make any difference. All right, the name itself is not important. It's just that there's a directory tree. All right, so I'm going to extract all of this, and I'm going to extract it into SquareView 2. Okay. And here we go. All right, so it's done. So it's now installed. All right, so you don't see anything different. because right at the moment, if you will, there's nothing different. All right. Other than that, if we go to look at the SQView 2, where's SQView 2? Right there. If we look at it, there's now a folder in here called My Stuff. And just to show you that in here, it's got a subdirectory for choreo, for lyrics, music, and programmatic stuff is in here in the SQView utility file. Here for choreo, I break stuff out as being either breaks or figures, singing call related. And then for hash, get-ins and get-outs, I have a subfolder where I put in notes. And I have a subfolder for entire routines, which I use with SSD, or I'm starting to use with SSD, if you will. You can make up whatever kind of subfolders you want, but these are the things that I've done. So what we're going to do is we come up here then in the options, and we go to choreography, and you can change the names of any of these. And since I don't do any kind of challenge calling, I just kind of stole challenge 4, and I'm changing its name to be SSD. And then I'll be done with that. Having done that, now, if I go up and I look at change level, the last level is now SSD. That's where C4 used to be. So I can keep things under the, the recognition of being SSD. Then up here at the top, these tabs along the top, if we go into globals, they're all listed right here. And if you're not aware, the number here on the tab corresponds to the number at the top row on your keyboard. If you press that number, it goes to whatever that tab is related to, if you want to use the keyboard rather than using your mouse. And when calling, that's quite handy. So if you don't have to use the mouse to do stuff, you can just poke on the keyboard and go to wherever that thing is. Now, I change these things. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I change these. And let's see. I make 5 to be routines. Now, this installation file lists all of these things. I'm just going through the steps here in the installation file. And then I'll highlight this one, and I'm going to change it to get-ins. Change the next one to get-outs. And you're probably already noticing I'm a one-finger typist. But that's just the way life goes. And breaks. Figures. And I won't change any of the others right now. Now, you can have more tabs. Up here on the top, it says, how many tabs do you want? This is just a SQView feature. It's nothing, unique to me. You could change this to be like 11, 15, whatever you want, and you'll get more tabs across the top. So if you wanted to, make some other names for some other kinds of things that you want to index, that would work fine. You can do that. All right, but this is just what I've done. Okay, so now it's changed the names up here. All right, so then when we select one of these, well, let me back up first and show. Here again, in these, like, if we go in and look at, like say breaks. All right, I have files in here. Each file is an HTML file, and don't be afraid of the fact that it's HTML. An HTML file is just like a text file, like your email files that you type into. It's nothing, you know, fearsome about them. You can edit one of these files using any convenient text editor that you have. You could use Notepad or others. I use Notepad++. All right, and that is free software that's available on the internet. And again, that's listed in the installation thing. So, and it's got a link so that you can go get it if you want. I use it because it's got more function and feature than Notepad, but it's very similar to Notepad. All right, so anyway, we can look at any one of these things and edit it with Notepad++. And probably have to bring this over here so you can see it. All right, and here is the HTML file itself. Now, in here, in the structure of it, the important things, if you will, the only kinds of things that you would be changing are these lines up here at the top. These are comments. In HTML, a comment starts with these 5 characters and then ends with these 3. All right, and the important thing is that it's listed as a tag, and then this part right here is the tag. All right, what follows right here, this is the tag, and that becomes the name that it's indexed under. So this particular file is going to be indexed under #MS for mainstream, and it's also going to be indexed under 3/4 tag the line. So that and we'll see this here in a minute, when I go back in here, I will be able to select, if you will, only mainstream breaks, or I'll be able to select breaks that perhaps use 3/4 tag the line because I set those up. The only other place that you make changes is right down here. And this is where you put in your calls. And it's just text. The only thing is that every line needs to end with the HTML break command. All right, less than symbol BR and then greater than symbol. All right. HTML by itself will just run everything together. All right, won't break across lines unless you tell it to. So this is, you know, it's important to put this BR at the end. When you, if you take it out, when you look at your file, it'll be obvious to you right away that that is missing. One other possible thing that you might need to do or want to do is right up here. All right, this 18EM, that's setting the width on your display that this is going to be displayed in. The margins to the left and to the right are automatic, so this gets centered with this much space reserved. For most everything that I've done, the 18EM, and EM is describing a unit of measure, the 18 works for normal length of things. But there have been a few where I've had to increase it to, if you will, 24 or perhaps 30, all right, which, you know, just it keeps it centered, but the margins are different. So again, don't be afraid about these things, and we'll come back and we'll actually change one of these a little bit later on. All right, so there's these many different things in here. Now, the name of the file is not really important. It's up, that's just available to you. Of course, obviously, as everybody knows, I mean, within a given directory, every file has to have a unique name, but other than that, you can do whatever you want. I have just been naming them as MS break 1, MS break 2, all right, and then PL for plus break 1, plus break 2, etc. And then the SSD, and the SSD, I originally I had a name much the same way, but I changed this to be SSD week 01, SSD week, if you will, down here through week 02. So that they're name-wise, they're organized by the week that this code is, or that this set of calls is available to use in the SSD program. And we'll take a look at why we're going to use this a little bit later on. Again, the indexing program, which we're going to run in just a moment, is going to take these names and going to put the files into an indexing file, which is named by the comments at the front. So this file, which is SSD week 01 file 1, is going to get put into a general collection of SSD. It's going to be put into a general collection of SSD week 01. And it's also, because SSD is basically a subset of mainstream, it's going to be put into a mainstream collection so that you can get at these things these ways. Now, I renamed, or the way that I'm naming these things, because based upon something that I saw on Facebook communications, somebody was looking for how to get a collection of everything that you could do. Like if you went to a dance, which is at SSD week 5 level, you don't want to just find SSD week 5 code, or calling examples. You want to find things from week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. So I have something in development that will create SSD level week 0 or week whatever by having looked at these things, scanning through. It's not ready, it's not included in the distribution right now because it's not all checked out, but it's pretty close. But in order to accomplish that grouping of things together, I needed some way to identify the week. And so I did it with a name here. All right. So, all right, so we're back to here. So we go to one of these things, like we were just in, I don't remember, were we in breaks, I think? All right, if we look at the level, right now it's set at basic, but if I change it to SSD, okay, and you see that we've got SSD up there, and I go to breaks, I would be able to select, all right, with the way things are right now, I can select directory, and I could go to and now it's displaying one of the HTML files. What it's done is it has selected as the source the directory that I had selected right there, which is the breaks directory in the choreo. It tells you that it's displaying index 1, the first file, out of a possibility of 15. So you can move around through here now by using the little arrow. You can go to the next one. All right. You can jump forward, big jumps if you want, or jump back, big jumps. And anyway, I would not use the edit function on this because this is in a different format than Bernard had set up. All right, but anyway, this is not using the indexing right now. It's just going, to the full directory of the files. All right. So what we're going to do is back and go to, and this is, again, this is a step that's in the installation instructions. Go into the SQView and the exe file that's here. If we right click on it, create a shortcut. And then drag the shortcut down to the desktop. And I'm going to rename it. To be SQView 2. All right, now I fire up the utility, which we haven't seen run till this point. And here it comes. All right, there's a number of functions here. The first one is the index function, and this creates the index files. All right, so it's looking at the place that the program is being run from with expecting that, you know, it's going to have a my stuff choreo, you know, and runtimes. And if it finds that, or routines rather, if it finds that, then this stays or is filled in like this. Otherwise, it says that the file is not found. All right. And you can click on this to go set the file. All right. But we can index these. All right, it just indexed the routines. It's done already. Index the breaks. It's done already. Index the figures. Index the get-ins. Index the get-outs. And if we had a file that didn't match one of these things that we wanted to use, there is a generalized index thing down here that allows you to select what the file is, and it will go in and index it, but we're done here. All right, so just to show now, if we go back and we look in the choreo, and if we look in the breaks, there are now a number of additional files up here at the front. They all start with a pound sign, and these are the indexing files. They're all of type .ini, and that's just a requirement of SQView that if you're going to have an indexing type file, it's got to be an ini suffix, or file extension, if you will. There is one that is automatically created, which is the all, which you don't have to list that in your in the comments. It's just every file that's in here gets put into this. All right, and these are just lists of files. That's all that they are. Just a regular list, textual list of files. All right. There's nothing special about these indexing files. All right, so we've got all of these in here. All of these files down here were scanned looking at the comments, and the comments became ini files, indexing files. So we can find everything that belongs to SSD week 01. We can find everything that belongs to SSD week 2. We can find the files that use 3/4 tag the line. We can find the files that use Dixie Grand, etc. Whatever I set up as those indexing comments at the tops of the HTML files. So being done with that, we go back to SQView now. Rather than going to the directory that has all the files in it, I can go into breaks. And I can select an index file. As an example, I could select SSD week 1. And now what's being displayed is only those things that have the comment in it for SSD week 01. And I can move forward through these. And back, etc. All right, if I want to change to a different one, just come down here and select something else that I want. I want to find those that use H3. All right, this particular code segment here, or call sequence, if you will, has the calls in it 8 chain 3, and I had put that as a comment at the top, so that's why it got selected out. And in fact, there's only one of these in here right now that has that. If I go look for something else, Dixie Grand, not sure how many of those there are. Oh, there's only one break in here that's got Dixie Grand in it right now. All right. So anyway, all right. So now we can. This is. I should go back. Let me go back. And let's do all of the SSD. All right, so this has got all SSD in it right now. Now, if I change the level, and let's say I go to mainstream, right now it's still got the same thing in here, but I can come in here and change this to select mainstream. And now it's got mainstream stuff in here. And if I change the level to go back to SSD, it switched back to SSD. SQView remembers, what these settings are relative to the program level. Right, so you can change it to basic 1, basic 2, mainstream SSD. You can change it to other things, but you can set it to whatever you want. So I would go through these things, like say, starting at routines. We indexed everything. We're at SSD. And change the level. Well, we can go across can do get ins. SSD. Get outs. SSD. We already did breaks. We can do figures. SSD. And now if I change the level, let's say I change the level to mainstream, come back and go across these again. I can do these things. Mainstream, get ins. With mainstream, get outs. Breaks. And just to demonstrate, we can also do, might not be plus things for all this stuff. Oops. Oh, shoot. Oh, no, maybe we're right. All right, I was going too quickly here because I needed to change the directory that I was in. So this is going to look bad on the video. Let's go back, go across this again. So I want to find plus routines. So I want to get into the choreo. For routines. And there isn't anything plus here, so let's just cancel out of that. Get-ins. And put any of those in there. All right, so anyway, let's routines. All right, again, what I did before incorrectly is when I was going to select the file, I wasn't getting to the correct. So we're going to get in. I wasn't getting to the correct directory to select. Which, although it was not doing what I had intended to do, it does demonstrate that you can use this thing pretty much any way that you want. Choreo, we want to get outs. All right, so anyway, all right. So now we can, like select the level, select what we're doing. All right, the way that I use this, if you will, add a dance. I might, before the tip, might want to look for a singing call figure that I want to use. So I might come over here to figures and then just scroll through, given that this is a mainstream tip, scroll through some of these to find the one that I want. All right. And with regards to get outs, bring these up here, and as I'm calling, I have one of these set up here so that I can see it. And after I use it, just go on to the next one, and then I can go on to the next one. Now it tells me up here, both in the title and down here in the file name, that this is for a corner box. So all that I'm going to do is just while I'm calling, I mostly sight call, I'm going to bring the dancers to a corner box, and then I'm going to be able to do this sequence. And after I do it, then I want to move on to the next. Now you can, using the mouse, as I've done, You can click on the arrow to go to the next, but you can also, on the keyboard, the right and left arrows will allow you to progress. That's normal square view action, that it allows you to progress using the right and left arrows. You could also move about by using random, and it'll randomly select. Right. So what's important is that you build the things that you want to use, and then you can access them as you want to use them. Now, in terms of building them, if we change the level to SSD, and if we go to, right now you can see it changed. Because I changed the level, it changed what it was displaying. It went to the SSD related material that was saved from over here. If I look at the routines, right, these were all copied from the SSD teaching document. And the last one that's in there is for week 2. It's the 5th one because there were only 5 routines. Well, let's look at adding some more and see what we would do. All right, I have, or had, I guess I don't have any more. Here's the teaching guide. All right. If I'm going to take stuff off, like say off here, I want to take some more routines and I want to put them in. I want to do week 3. I can scroll down here to lesson 3. It's really easy. Whoops. What do we got here? Lesson 3. All right. And here are some routines. All right. In order to copy the routine and put it into the square view utility sort of thing, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the selection tool. Now you can type these things in by yourself, or come on. Just highlight it, Control-C to copy it. And if I go into the My Stuff and go into the choreography, and I'm going into routines, the last routine that's in here, I'm going to use this thing as a model to create the new one. So I'm simply going to right click on it and edit it with Notepad. And I'm going to replace the text. Highlight the text I want to replace, do a Control-V, and now I've got the text that I copied in there. And I'll add, now there's faster ways to do this, but for our purposes right now, to show you, I'm just going to add these necessary break commands. And I'm not reformatting it right now to make it look better, but we'll just sort of leave it like this and see what happens. right, now, up at the top, the indexing for this thing, I had taken a file from week 2, so it's got an index up here for week 2, but this is from week 3. So I'm just going to change this to say week 3. Okay? And then, again, this is just the way that Notepad++ works. Come over here to File, Save As, and I'm going to change this to be week 3, number 1, and save it. And that's all there is to that. If I want to now do the next one, come over here and I'll copy this. Come back over here to Notepad and I'm going to change the stuff down here. And there is a nice feature with Notepad that it will create what it calls macros. It will remember keyboard sequences. And so I saved a keyboard sequence to put this BR at the end. And here is the little thing to run a macro once. So I'm currently sitting on this first line right here. Oops, okay, so it doesn't have it right here. New version, all right. I had a issue earlier today where some of the software or my computer did a hiccup. Some software died, I had to reinstall stuff, including Notepad, and it lost that. But it's an easy keyboard sequence. All right, so now we've updated this up here. There's nothing really for us to change right up here. All right, so we can just do a file and save as, and we'll just change the number to be 2. And obviously we could repeat our way through all of the files down here that are on the original document. But we're not going to take time to do that right now. All right, so let's go. Let's just get off of there. All right, if we're looking at routines now, and we're still looking at just general for SSD, SQView had loaded the list of files, and we changed the files, the list, the indexing. So what we want to do here is to reload, and now we can oh, we're not. Yeah, we are. What's going on? Oh, stupid me. We put the things in there, but we didn't index them. I didn't index them. So I'm going to re-index the routines. That will update the index files. Now, if we look at routines. I don't know what's going on. I should have picked those up. Anyway, we're almost out of time.
Do you need to reload?
Should not have, well, oh, yes, thank you. That's, you're absolutely right. But still doesn't. Use the big sledgehammer. Now it's good. Oh. They should have shown up. Just did this. Here's an index for week 3 and then index for SSD. It's got week 3 in it. All right, I don't know what's this would be the kind of thing that you would send me an email for, because I've never seen this happen before, and we'll get it fixed. Oh, that's curious. It didn't. Oh, that's breaks anyway. Huh. All right, so anyway, I don't know why it didn't get into the general one, but here are these things. And for this kind of stuff shows up because some of the source files are not in ASCII, and this anticipates that they are. So you end up with some garbage things, and you can go back in and get rid of those. And this is an example of where what I was talking before about the middle width where the stuff goes in. It's not quite wide enough for this. So the star through. So let's see, which one was that? That's week 301. Right. So I might change this to be the width down here to be 24. Save it. And now if I reload, it fixed that. And obviously I would go back and get rid of, the garbage it's creating right here before the. Anyway. That's kind of everything. Oh, almost, not quite. Close this, get out of there. On the SQView utility, there are some other functions here. I have, like I mentioned, I do most of my development kind of work on my desktop system here. And of course, have a laptop that I take with me. And I want to keep the two of them basically in sync. So I have some functionality that I built here. We'll look at these last two first. This one, list directory tree, you can point at something, right? In this case, it's pointing, by default at my stuff, but I can, if I click on this, I can move it to something else, like I can move it to choreo. And I can choose where I want to have the output to go. And let's just put it up in temp. And the output file is going to have, this name. And you have a choice as to whether you want to process subdirectories or not. I selected yes. And do you want to also process the indexing files? Generally speaking, the answer is going to be no, I don't want to. And what this is going to do, it's done. We can go over to my temp file, and it created a SQView list file here, which I edit it with Notepad, and this is the content thereof. It shows you, Syncoria shows you where it came from, and it shows you a list of all of the files that are in there. Right. Now, I don't necessarily want to look at that, right? But what I would do is I would run this a second time and run it on my other system, and I would compare. All right, after I get the two lists, saved to different places, obviously, or with different names, having changed them, you can come in and you can do a compare, and you can select file 1 to do the compare and file 2 to do the compare, and then you can select where you want the output to go, and it will tell you. Now I'm going to, see, because we only did one. we just use the same file for both. And put the output comparison file also up there. And then we will compare them, and we can here is the compare list. Edit it with Notepad, and it shows us now in this case, we, because I was comparing a file, the one directory against itself, but it shows you the source for both for 1 and for 2, and it shows you that there were no directories unique to, if you will, system 1 or to system 2, and no files unique to system 1 or system 2. So I go through that. That's the output that I would like to have when I'm comparing two systems. If not, I can copy things from, one system to the other in order to get there. But I can also, after I've done that much, and I know that by file name, things are the same, I also have a scan of directory tree, and it looks pretty much the same. All right, it's what you want to scan. Let's scan all of choreo and put the output onto temp. And here's the output file name. And again, we can scan subdirectories, but leave these things off. Now, the difference between the scan and the list is that the scan creates a SHA hash for each file. It's done. And we come over here. Here's a scan output. And again, it's just going to be a text file, right? But it's got all of these files listed here, within the directories. And for each one, it's got the SHA hash value. All right, so if we were to do two of those, we could then compare them with each other. All right, as directory scans. And again, it looks exactly the same. We can select where we're going to get it from. Same thing for 2. And again, it's just because I only did from one place. In the output location, we'll also put that up. And then I can compare them. Done. And here's a compare. Oh, that's a compare for lists. Yep. Oh, that's what's happened. Refresh it. They said to put temp.
No, it's not in temp. You had it set for SQView 2, my stuff.
Yep, okay, all right. So that's why it's not there. Well, let me put it in temp. Thank you. Never seen a problem with this, so it's really disturbing. All right, here's the compare scans. And we look at that, and again, it shows you, now in this case, because we were looking at the same thing twice, you know, there's no differences, but it would show you if there were, files with different hash values, directories that are unique to one system or the other, etc., so that you can address that. Now, if you happen to find two files, you know, like here when you're doing this, that are different, and you're not quite sure why they're different or how they're different, what I use, and again, this is in the installation documentation, I use a program called WinMerge. All right, it's a free program. And there's, like I said, in the installation doc, there's a link to where you can go to get this. And you can, if you go to the open function up here, this comes up and you can select file 1 that you want to compare, and you can collect file 2 that you want to compare. Let's see, where are these things going? These are, this will work. This is my, if you will, functional square view, and this is the square view 2 that we've got right here. And if we come down, all right, this should be highlighted down here, and it's not functional right at the moment. I don't know what the story is. Maybe you can't find one.
That file may not be in your second folder in SquareView 2.
That's probably the case. All right, so let's just browse for something. All right, anything. Where are we? SquareView 2 figures. What do we have for the other one? We have figure SSD figure 3. Oh yeah, it's got a different. All right, so we'll just take that one. Thank you very much. All right, now we got the compare function, and we just bring it up. Oop, shoot. All right, so it tells me that they're identical, but it shows you the files. Let me go back. Go back. Let's select a different one from here that'll be radically different. And you compare them. It shows highlighted everything that's different. So it's very easy. I mean, I have on some occasions have done some things like I ran two words together on one. When you're just looking at it, trying to figure out what the difference is, they look, you know, if you're just looking from one screen to another screen, they look the same because the words are the same. The only thing that's missing is a blank. It's easy to miss, but this highlights it really quick. So it's an easy solution to that issue. So if you're going to use this kind of thing and you want to do the compare, now there are other programs available to do the compares, but this one, you know, is very nice, and it's, you know, free and well supported. So anyway.
Okay, so we did have one question, but we are past the hour, and so if anybody's wanting to leave and you only had an hour, you know, now's your time. But we did have one question in the chat. They asked, is it only one sequence per file?
Yes, I mean, well, that's the way that I do it. You can put whatever you want in there. And you can have, like, one of the things that was in there. Notes. On my system, in the notes, I mean, I have really long things in there that are, you know, it's like how to use Dixie Grant, you know, and it's got all different things in it. You can put whatever you want in there, and it's how you want to use it. Like I said before, you know, like at a dance, I might be, you know, before the tip, I might be scanning through the figures, looking for a particular figure that I want to use. You know, I try to kind of plan out in advance what I'm going to do, but sometimes, you know, like if you have a figure that didn't work, excuse me, you have a call that had an issue in the previous tip, you want to perhaps reuse it, and you want to use a figure that's got that in it. So I could search through and find that, something that I wanted, if I didn't, you know, recognize something or know it right in advance. So anyway, it's just something that's available if
May I add on to the? Yeah,
Guido, yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Guido.
I did ask this question because I'm still reluctant to switch from SQView 7X to the SQView 9X version because there is no useful vertical scroll on the pages. In 7X, I can set up a vertical scroll page-wise, which is not possible in 9. This is why I asked.
you're talking about SquareView version 9 versus 7.
Yep.
Okay.
The 7 version is the one with the yellow logo, and the 9 versions are the blue logo.
Okay. I never saw the 7 version, so I don't.
And in the 7 version, you can set your set the scroll value, and I've set it so that it scrolls with each page down, or with the down arrow, it scrolls one complete page. And so I have more sequences in one file. Everything else is not really useful on stage. But if you just have one sequence in there and scroll horizontally, that's okay.
All right, well, you can put, you know, in terms of these HTML files, you can put as many sequences as you want in there.
I know, and I know it. I was just thinking about, did you find a way to scroll vertically or not, to do it page-wise? I know I can. I have long HTML files. Some of them have 60 or 70 sequences in there.
I have, well, I mean, I scroll through, you know, I don't know about doing it, quote, page by page, but if you will, I don't know that there's an HTML page boundary, but you know, I have long files that in here, in notes in particular, that I move through looking at it in SquareView.
Yeah, this is a topic I was talking to Thomas already, but for years now he seems to be very reluctant to change that back to the 7X version feature. But I have something else, syncing files on my laptop and my desktop. I have all my files on OneDrive that I use on stage. So when I do something on my desktop, it's already done on the laptop also.
All right, if you're doing it on OneDrive, then you have to have internet access.
No, you can save it down to the computer. You just need the space on your disk.
Well, right. Well, then it's not, quote, on OneDrive. I mean, you downloaded it, you've synced it between the two from a common source that you use.
Yes, and anytime I start the computer and OneDrive is started, I'll sync the files.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I don't do that sort of thing, but whatever works for each individual. That's not a bad technique.
Yeah, I was just always having problems keeping files in sync when they were on two different computers.
Yes.
And meanwhile, when I use OneDrive to sync it, I can do changes on my laptop. And as soon as the laptop has internet access again, it will be uploaded and it will be downloaded to the desktop, and everything is in sync again.
Right.
Okay, I've got a question. When you were in there and you were trying to find I think the SSD week 3s,
Yes.
and you kind of search, I missed it because I had to go take care of my dad real quick, but I noticed that in the where it says file directory database, you had like hashtag space hashtag something SSD or something like that. I can't change mine on mine. Mine shows the file path and that's it. And if I try and type in anything in there, like I'm in routines,
Yeah.
and I try and type something in there, it won't let me type anything in there. It just shows me the file path.
All right. Where?
Here, let me see.
Just about. Where's this share thing?
See, here's what I'm talking about, right in here where it's highlighted.
Yeah.
You had like hashtag space hashtag SSD or something in there.
Yeah.
I've got it highlighted now. If I try and type, it doesn't do nothing. Actually, I just by hitting a bunch of keys.
That's the result of having. I mean, what's displayed there is what was selected from down below at file.
I did a directory.
Right. Well, either directory or file, if you will. Now, if you do file, it's looking for something. Basically, it's something that's got a .ini or else like HTML.
Okay, so I must have missed part. How do you do a search for okay, it wasn't coming up in here. How did you get the week 3 up? Pick the actual file. Because mine's doing the same thing too. When I go to the SSD routines, week 2, 8 is the last one it'll go to, but week 3 are in there.
All right, this is a quote issue that I haven't seen before, and and I only got to looking at week 3 by having selected, gone down to file and having selected the index file for week 3. Why it's not showing, why those week 3, 1, and 2 files were not showing up under just SSD, I don't know. I will look for that, but I don't know right now.
Okay.
So Eric, in summary then, what's the advantage for the average caller that he's able to find his choreography quicker at the dance? Is that your premise for using it?
It's that, and the fact that I don't have to, if you will, carry a lot of paper with. I've got all the stuff right there to look at, and I've got a couple of other things, as I've been playing around with this, that have sort of come to me, idea-wise as things that would also be nice, and I'm working on. I mentioned the one is to have it automatically create an index by SSD level, so that, like if I go to an area, new dancers dance, where, they say it's going to be through week 8, but there's a class there that's only been through week 5. I don't have to have all pre-prepared material that I can't use. I can just select the level and I can see the stuff that works at that level. And I also have another thing that I'm, working on that would basically allow you to select choreographic sequences out and, if you will, append them one after another into a file, something like the sheet that Mel makes out for his dances, right? So that you can just grab and paste, those kinds of things.
Yeah, theme sheet. Yeah, theme sheet. Yeah, where you're going to do so. So if you, for instance, wanted to mark figures that they could be used for normal squares, or say 6 coupled squares, and still be true, the module would still be true. How would you use your system to do that?
Well, what I would do is add a comment at the top of the file that, that after the tag colon, it says, like 6 couple or something like that. Now,
Right.
I can't start with the 6 because that wouldn't be valid as a file name. But, whatever, something of that nature. Then there would be an index of those. I see you shaking your head, so the answer is yes.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, so you'd put SCS or something like that in there for 6 couple squares or something like that. And,
Right.
The same way as you're going to put in mainstream for an SSD routine that you thought, well, can still be used in mainstream.
Right.
Okay.
You could use hex or rectangle for your.
Well, hex
6.
tends to mean true 6 couple squares, but if you're doing it in a hexagon, but if you're doing it in a rectangle, you'd put 6 couple
Right.
squares.
You use whichever.
You just tag them as you find appropriate.
Right. Okay. So do you find that you could have your SQView window still open and made slightly smaller, and have your choreo window beside it? Do you operate that or not?
Well, I mean, this is in SQView.
Oh, it's inside SQView. Yeah, so you're just clicking the top line to switch to choreo.
Yeah, I'm switching from music to one of these other, kinds of things.
Right. Very interesting, Eric. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And as I said at the front, maybe more than once, if anybody has any suggestions or, critical comments, that sort of thing, be glad to look into them.
Clearly, there's a fair bit of work initially to set yourself up to use the system, isn't there?
There is definitely some work, yes. I mean, you have to put your routines in there. I am actively working at putting the all of the material from the SSD document, teaching document into there. But for everything else, like Mainstream Plus and whatever, I had also started scanning through all of Barry Watson's material, over the past N number of years, taking out like plus figures and get-ins and, and all that sort of good stuff. But I haven't gotten, but about a year and a half through that. I agree, it takes work.
Yeah, I'd done a similar thing with my HTML files. I have a standard HTML file that I use for generating cue sheets for SQView, and so yeah, I'd be comfortable handling that. With the line break, you could just Control-C the line break, couldn't you, and copy it on each line quickly rather than typing it each time. That would be an improvement to what you.
Well, there is, like I said, you can, if you creating these things with Notepad++, all right, you can record a key sequence, and what I had recorded was a key sequence that did the, less than sign, the BR, and the first thing that it did was end of line, then the less than sign, BR, the greater than sign, and then a down arrow. So I had that saved as a macro, if you will, what Notepad calls as a macro. And then I just went up to the top. I positioned myself on a line and then just repeatedly clicked that, do macro symbol. And, it's really quick. But it's the same thing as what you were just saying. You could just do the Control-C sort of thing. But there's more keystrokes and all involved with that.
The thing that I find the most work is taking it from full text to my shortcut commands for each call.
Yes.
And certainly I use find and replace for that, so that I can change the whole, like if it's square through 4, change it to my SQ4 or something like that, which I might use. And certainly searching the choreo and finding that and changing it is quick if you use find and replace.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this should be a good tool for us in a couple of weeks, Alan. Like when I'm doing, we're starting a new beginners class, and I'll be setting up an SSD directory for that. So it'll be great. Be a great.
Kevin, you still got your hand up? You're muted, or I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. That worked.
You can hear me? Good. Don't know what I did, but that's fine. Yeah, I was going to ask the question of on the.
We lost you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep.
There we go. That's great. On those SquareView pages, you've got the ability to define the font and actually define what your font is and what font size is, etc. for things that you've got from the SquareView database. Do those font controls still operate in conjunction with the index files, or are the index files got their own style formats within the definition?
Well, those fonts apply to the HTML files, not to the indexes themselves. All right, you don't quote see the index. All right, what you're seeing is the file that the index points to, the one that you have selected out of there. And in that, in the HTML file, there are, let's see if I can get this up here. All right,
It's like, even as it is what you've got there at the moment, the actual title is a different font size to the sort of detail of that routine.
Yes.
So is that all defined within the HTML files rather than on those font controls on the side?
Yes, it's. I'll just pick.
I mean, have you got a separate file sheet, or are they actually the file style sheets hard coded in the HTML?
It's in the HTML. But you don't have to modify these things. All right.
We don't have to modify them once you've identified the size of them. But you would actually get that right on your first file that you're effectively using as a template for the others. So is the actual size of the fonts actually predefined somewhere in the sort of like the HTML code at the top there?
Yes. All right. So like here is you most likely have much more knowledge of all this HTML stuff than I do. My first encounter with it was about 4 months ago.
Fair enough.
And so I figured out this much. All right, so there are some style things. Well, this doesn't have another one in it, but let's see.
Yeah, but you've got a couple of font statements near the top there, which are defining
Yes,
the header, and then the rest of it is defining the font for the rest of the document.
right.
So
And-
it's hard coded effectively within the HTML page that you're then indexing. The font controls on the left hand side of the square view page
Yes,
aren't controlling those, because that would only be if you're using square view's sort of style sheet.
yes, right. There are two inside the choreo directory. There are two CSS files. I don't know what they're called anyway.
Yeah, style sheets. Yeah.
Style sheets. That's what I thought, but I don't know what the C is for. Anyway.
Cascading it stands for.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So, like I say, I'm a novice at this. I got this much to work. So, I sort of stole this stuff out of what was already, in Square View, and just modified it a little bit to, make some things that would work for me.
Yeah, right. So basically that you grabbed or captured whatever it was you had defined within your Square View when you were starting to develop it, and effectively took a copy out, which it now uses for those index files.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
no, it's using them for the HTML files, not the index file.
Okay, for the HTML file. But if you actually changed your definitions on the left, if you go back to your Square View page, and then you actually try to set the font on the left hand side there, would it affect your page?
Yes, it will.
Yeah, I guess it would. We'd have to.
I tried it. I tried to make it bold, and it didn't make any difference.
I think if you change your cascade sheet, it will probably follow the cascade sheet that's in your Square View.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter, because once you've got it set up, then you're going to just be able to use the same fonts. It's just the ability to get that first setup is the question.
Yeah. This didn't make any change here when I did that. But, well, I wouldn't necessarily expect that it would, because this is invoking some code that Bernard, created to do what he was doing, and he probably doesn't see the format of what I have here. So.
Yeah, that's something I just wasn't sure where you were picking up the style sheet from, whether it was picking up Square View style sheet or whether it was picking up one in your own directories, but I'm guessing it's picking up ones in your own directories.
Yes, they're listed in the closed it.
I mean, like I said, because I can do HTML coding, it's not a problem for me, but it's just something maybe others need to be aware of, that they would have to modify it within the actual style sheet in your libraries if they needed to make any changes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, they're in the choreo. Yeah, whatever.
You may have a style sheet in each one of your directories.
Well, I tried not to do that. I tried to put them, in one place. My experience over many years of programming is that the more places you put it, the more likely you are to have problems. And it goes up exponentially by the number of places that you put it. So, that's why everything is, everything that's choreographic related is under choreo, so that I can collect stuff there. These guys right here.
Yeah.
Well, not the JS one, but. So I believe that Mark is going to try to put this up on the website, and if it doesn't go there, at least the installation document should go there, and you can send me an email and I will send it off. It's only about half a meg or something like that in size, the zip file. It's not big at all. And I just mentioned again that I don't have a Mac, don't have access to a Mac, so I don't have anything readily available for a Mac. I don't have older systems available to me, so I don't have anything necessarily available for them. I don't know that it would work on other than, if you will, a Windows 10 or 11 system, 64-bit. That's what I work on.
Well, I have put it in the chat a couple times. I just put it in there again, the zip file and the thing. But like I said, the website, I'm not positive if it'll let me put a zip file on there. Okay. So I might try something to rename it as a text file or something like that, and then put that in the description that when you download it, rename it to a zip, see if that works. But I want to say thank you very much for this, because I myself have never had any luck with the HTML and SQView. It just never clicked with me. But this actually reminded me kind of doing some Arduino coding, and I understand that a lot better than HTML. It's two different things, but I can work with this. This I understand. So now my SQView is going to get a lot better, and I'm going to have to carry less papers around with me. Anybody else got any questions? It's open for discussion here.
I've got a question. It doesn't relate to what you were doing, but SQView, you got the option of opening a directory for songs or a playlist. How do you create your playlist? That's a file so that you can use it. Does anybody know?
If you go to the top, there's a tool on the top line under tools. There's a thing called Playlist Manager, where you can then define a directory and add files across into your playlist, and then save your playlist into the playlist file. And then after that, you can open up that saved playlist. And in fact, what? On the top of the SQView page, I think it's under tools. One of the options, there's like file,
okay,
etc. One of the options is tools, and I think third or fourth option down is playlist manager.
Okay.
So if you go to playlist manager, it will then open up like a window, and on the left hand side you can open up a directory or another playlist, and then you can highlight a song, add it to the right hand side, okay. So then if you just grab a song and then push the add, it adds it to the right, and you can build your playlist that way.
Oh, awesome.
And then you can pick a song and move it using the up and down arrows on the underneath on the right hand side to get the sequence right. And then when you're happy, push that save button, and then it should take you to your playlist file, or you have to find your playlist file within your SQView directory. Should have one called playlists. You may have to add it the first time. I thought it automatically created a playlists folder.
Mm-hmm.
Or just look where you saved it to.
Yeah, or just make sure you know where you've saved it to, and then you can define that as when you open your playlists, it will automatically go to the same folder each time.
Okay.
So if you once you've saved that, you can close that window down and then go to your playlists button, the left-hand button above that one. Yeah.
It just showed on the top where it's saved.
Yeah, no, then basically where you normally would open up, that's above each of the lists where you've got those buttons and you want your playlist, then you can just go find where your playlists are.
Go back to the playlist manager. Tools, playlist manager. When you save it, at the top it shows. Yeah, you have it here. It's a text M3U. That's the playlist. It just saved. You have it here.
There it is.
These are the 4 songs you have selected.
There, I was muted. I couldn't say anything. Yeah, I opened up the playlists in the right side there. But how do you load it in? Can you load a playlist into this top window up here?
Right mouse button, song by song. With the
song by
right
song.
Mouse click.
Okay, so does that answer your question, Bob?
It absolutely does.
All right.
It's easy, but I didn't know how.
One of the things that I find it useful for, Bob, is when you get a whole bunch of new records, is being able to put them in a playlist like that, so that when you want to go back and practice or review your new material that you've received in the last year or so, say, it's all in the one place. It just pulls it out of all of your directories where you've got your music, and suddenly you've got all your new music together as a group. The same with themes, birthday themes or holiday themes or whatever. Put them in a playlist and get to them very quickly.
That was my intention, create theme playlists.
Thank you, Alan. That just gave me a good idea. I'm going to cut my music folder size down a lot, because I've got parade songs, dance demo songs, SSD songs, and mainstream songs. And I got them all in there, copies of them in all these different folders, where if I just make playlists, I've only got to have one copy of the song.
That's correct.
Right.
I think the playlist... Even just for last year's Christmas night and the year before Christmas night, you can think, oh, I did the same thing to Christmas. I can't do that one this year. So just comparing your playlist for the different Christmas nights, with great preparation.
Yep. Okay, well, I have to get out of here to go get ready to go to a dance. So I'm going to leave the room open. It's just I won't be here. So you guys have fun talking. Stay here as long as you like. Stephen, you still here? No, he's gone.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm in and out. We have a problem here, but I'm in and out.
Okay, yeah. Also, just whenever you're done, just try that with the Dropbox.
Okay.
So I'll see you guys all later.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.